Hey guys, Andy Prepper here. Gear comparison review. You've seen my last few videos. I've been doing a couple of videos about the SOG Entrenching Tool here. If you watched them, you've seen that I commented somewhat negatively about the entrenching tool, saying that I've got better stuff, got better options out there. I still hold that to be true. Nothing wrong with this, perfectly functional as an entrenching tool for entrenching purposes, but as far as bushcrafting goes, survival, SHTF and all of that, the standard teaching is 1 is none and 2 is 1. So, well, what is this thing good for? Basically, it's good for one thing, overall, in its basic form. It's good for digging a hole. You can sharpen it up, make it a decent, fair chopper, all that. It's just not what it's made for. It'll do a decent stand-in for that, but basically this is just a shovel. Just a basic shovel entrenching digging tool. I've already done a review on this one. You can check it out earlier today. But the basics on it, it's 18¼ inch long, 7¼ inches closed, high carbon steel. Running you $13-14 is what I paid for it. MSRP is about $20. Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with entrenching tools. I've used them for a long time. Overall, I'd say the quality of this is decent. You're not likely to break it, but just the swivel here, screw on the top, the washers, and the folding actions. There's just a lot of parts to this thing, okay? There's a lot to go wrong. And if this thing breaks out in the field, if any piece of this falls apart, chances are you're out of luck. If this thing breaks at any point, you're screwed. This plastic screw point here gives out on you, which is probably the weakest point on it. This is going to be virtually unusable unless you're just taking this blade handle and just scraping things out yourself by hand out in the woods. Don't really want to do that. Again, the standard cheese for these things fairly cheap. Check my old videos. So this is basically a comparison. I'm not going to go into the SOG in great detail because I've already done that before. Again, this thing runs you $13 on the cheap to $20 on the high end. What I think is better, especially because of the if 1 is none then 2 is 1 philosophy, is this. The cold steel special forces shovel. Much better option, a lot more practicality in my mind than your standard entrenching tool. Now, you say, this can fold up. This is much smaller. Yes, it can. If you're looking for space considerations, storing this in a small compartment in your car, that sort of thing, yeah, you're right. This has got a lot of options on this thing. This cannot be bent up, folded up, whatnot. But the fact that it's so simple, there's basically two parts. You've got the blade, you got the handle. And of course, you got your 2 screws in there. This is a simpler piece of machinery, and I think more usable overall. Now, let me give you the stats on this one. The Cold Steel Special Forces axe is based off the Spetsnaz style combat survival shovel. Been used for a lot of years. Great stuff. It's 19 11/16 overall from top to end, so obviously a little bit longer than this one. It's 5/64 inch thick on the blade edge here. Talk about that in a second. Perfectly sufficient. It's 26.6 ounces, so it's fairly heavy, but comparatively, these are in the same ballpark. You can carry either one of these just about as easily. Bonuses of this thing. Razor sharp cutting edge all the way around except for the back sides for when you're using it as a shovel. This thing, it's not quite razor sharp. You can't quite shave with it, but you can chop the heck out of anything you want, and you can use this as a survival tool. A tremendous survival defensive tool. So this thing has to be sharpened up quite a lot. This thing comes ready to go. I touched it up a bit. Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. I can chop some heads off with this. Chop some limbs. Basically chop down a tree with this if I need to. There's plenty of vids of this thing going to town. So, as far as a chopping tool, this is far superior to your standard entrenching tool. As far as a shovel, well, let's put them together. Bigger blade head here. This is going to be better at digging and all that, especially with the sharpened edges. Now you may argue, well, aren't you going to dull up your edges on your blade, sharpening this, the sharpened edges on this, trying to dig with it? Yes, you are. Absolutely. Every time you dig, you need to worry about it. You need to think about that. Is it worth digging the hole? I'm just not going to go around digging random holes with this thing. I've chopped a lot more things than I have ever needed to dig holes for. So, relatively, I think the chopping advantage of this and the chopping uses are going to be used a lot more than the digging advantages of this. So, poor chopping, decent digging, and excellent chopping. This is better for multi-purpose. So, if I had to chop down a small tree and this is all I had, this is going to do a heck of a lot better than this thing. So, price point, they're about the same overall. You're going to have to buy the sheath separate with this. I think they run 17, 18 bucks total for the shovel itself. Extra 4 or 5 bucks for the Cordura sheath. Cordura sheath here is much sturdier than the pouch for this thing. Got 2 button snaps here, belt loop, or various attach it to your pack style loop there. Other advantages. This thing does not have to be folded out to be deployed. It's ready to go all the time. Nice sturdy hardwood. If the hardwood for whatever reason happens to break, you can always easily go out in the woods and find a replacement for this and function something. Even if you don't have the screws here, let's just say the screws in this thing broke on it. Well, look at the design. You got this little beveled edge here cut off. This thing fits in, locks in fairly well, even without the screws. So you could function an even longer handle with this if you needed it for a longer handle shovel, that type stuff, or just to replace this. You can do that fairly easily in the woods. This thing breaks, you're out of luck. There's nothing you can do, basically. You're going to be sitting here with this little thing alone in your hands, just scraping along. This is going to do a better job. I just like this Spetsnaz better. Now, what I would compare to the Spetsnaz Special Forces shovel is the Devil's Tail shovel from Marbles. Now, I've got an old, frankly, probably crappy review of Marbles Devil's Tail shovel back in my early video days. May need to make a review of that, a re-review of that here soon. But comparison to this, the Devil's Tail has some advantages and disadvantages. Look that up if you want to. But this is far superior in my mind to the entrenching tool, despite the lack of foldability. I think the lack of foldability, the 2-piece construction blade handle is much better than this folding contraption overall for general purposes. You may disagree. No lanyard hole on either of these, though I guess you could attach some string, something like that, to this one. A lanyard hole will be nice on this one, but again, this thing is built like a tank. It's not going anywhere. Easy to use, fully deployable. Whenever you need it, just pull it out and good to go. Ready to chop and slash. This one's going to take a little while. Don't know how this would fare here on the SOG Entrenching Tool with cold weather conditions, with ice and snow and all that. Will this thing be even harder to deploy? It probably would be. If you guys are from up north and ever use an entrenching tool, please comment on that. I just kind of like to know how these things go. This is going to work just like it was the day it was made. It's going to work all the time. Kind of like the AK-47 of the shovel world. Just about indestructible. Anyway, my comparison between the two, the entrenching tool versus the cold steel Special Forces, i.e. Spetsnaz shovel. Indie Prepper out.